festival, we carefully time when the water goes into the fields and when it doesn't, and there are reasons for that.
After a couple of years of bumper harvests, those reasons started to become clear. Stephen Lansing's old friend, Wayan Paga, is a farmer in Sebatu. He remembers what it was like 20 years ago when the pests began to appear.
Waktu sekitar tahun 80-an tuh udah diulang lagi.
The Green Revolution remedy for pests was pesticides. It's not just that the farmers were advised to use pesticides, they were forced to use pesticides. They would be punished by the government if they didn't, because the government would say if anybody doesn't use pesticides immediately, as soon as any sign of pests appear, then the pest will spread to other fields. So within a year or two, even the farmers, pumping these pesticides into their fields couldn't kill all the pests. The government then began to fly the island, dropping pesticides from airplanes, and they succeeded in killing damn near everything.
Itu kepercayaan tetap fungsinya kepada Sang Pencipta, karena segala yang hidup itu ditentukan oleh Sang Pencipta.
He says that everything is made by a creator, and so by disturbing anything, by killing anything, you're disturbing part of the creation. So you need to pay attention to the whole picture. Essentially saying you have to pay attention to the whole picture.
Wow.
Yeah. Will you please welcome Wiwik Darmiasi, who's the acting head of the Department of International Relations at Bermainlah University.
Okay, I'm going to do it fast. Steve kidnapped me about 2 minutes ago and said you have to talk with me on stage. So. Yeah, I was in a team sent to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, funded by Samdana Institute. So our role there was to study and to learn about the management of the World Heritage Site, what the do's and the don'ts, because it's very, it's very complex in Bali and it's very challenging. It's a living site, it's not just a dead monument. So we created a governing assembly that will create and manage. That will manage the World Heritage Site in Bali. It's located in 5 different districts and it's 4 different sites. So the challenges are quite huge, especially if you talk about Indonesian government. You have this overlapping between the central, provincial, and district levels. But at the same time, you also realize that Subak is the organization that already exists for, since the 11th centuries. And they know best how to manage this landscape. So the challenges now is how to make and how to preserve this culture, these traditions based on the Trita Karana, the relationship between man to the spiritual world and man to man and then man to the environment. So the challenges is quite big, especially when we have to preserve the landscape with all this tourism growing in Bali. Professor Julia Watson, a colleague from Steve Lansing in the US, helped us design this gateway.
Design studio, where the students are looking at designing for the new World Heritage landscape in Bali. The key problem for the villagers is how to cope with the foreign visitors. And with over 1 million visitors to Bali each year, the landscape is literally in danger of being loved to death.
Loved to death.
We want to bring some design concepts directly to the 21 villages inside the UNESCO World Heritage Landscape. What would the Balinese people like to share with their visitors? We're creating designs for lots of projects like visitor gateways, museums, and interpretive walks.
Here are some of Julia's designs. The intention here is these are just ways to think about how the World Heritage might be created. They will be taken out in design charrettes, taken to the people in the villages as a way to begin to think about how they'd like to manage tourism, how they'd like to manage their World Heritage sites. So the point that Wiwik and I want to emphasize is these World Heritage sites were created by the people who live in them. And there's no question that the people who should manage them are the people in those sites. And so that's what Wiwik is trying to make possible within the framework of the Indonesian governmental system. And one of the things it can do, in Cambodia, the World Heritage brought in $65 million in 2011. On the other hand, it had very little benefit for the local people. So a possibility here, based upon Julia's ideas, is to create gateways to sacred landscapes where tourists will buy tourist, entrance tickets, and learn something about what the subaks and water temples are about. Visit them, and then the funds that would be acquired from these visitor gateways would then be governed and controlled and managed by the governing assembly, by the elected representatives of the bandesas and the subaks within the sites that are within the World Heritage System. Thank you.
Okay, so the way the format works is we have the presenter and then we have a few questions. So, are there any questions? Yeah, Alex.
Waste system. Well, and basically there's uncontrolled development in the World Heritage sites, and the farmers in places like Jati Duri and Upper Tabanan, Chaturanga, Batu Karu, complain because in effect until now there has been no tangible consequence of being nominated as a World Heritage Site other than the beginning of a land grab, because investors have come in to try to buy the land within the World Heritage. The problem is it takes time to construct a completely new, democratic, bottom-up organizational structure that encompasses the departments of forestry, public works, education, culture, and so forth. Building that takes time, and so we're in this kind of unfortunate hiatus moment, liminal moment when nothing yet has been created. And one of the reasons we're here talking tonight is to kind of keep things moving so that things get created quickly. Once power is given to the governing assembly, they can take over. That's our hope.
Yeah, we're focusing at the moment how to get the water to the farmers because we're lacking water for the farmers, and the land conversion, how to stop that happen for the time being. And for the waste management, I think it will go along accordingly after these two things are working. And we also ask for the community and local NGOs as well to work together with the governing assembly how to manage the site. Yes?
Yeah, let's say that the UNESCO World Heritage Project is quite successful and that within the boundaries of those 4 sites, across Bali, that the preservation is quite successful. But then the rest of the Bali tourism industry is also quite successful, and outside the boundaries of those sites, the subak is destroyed or the land is converted. Now it's an island-wide system, right, that goes from the lakes to the sea. Is it preserving the subak if only those specific sites are preserved?
I've been working publishing on the ecological damage that the subaks have sustained since the 80s, and we've been groping to find a solution. We tried to create policies. We led to 3. My colleague Alit Atwiguna created 3 subaks that have 3 successful experiments in organic farming up in Upper Tabanan. So what we're hoping is this can be an example that can spread with a return to organic farming, basically solving the ecological problems of the subaks. But there is when we were creating, setting the boundaries for the World Heritage Sites, the governor of Bali said the whole island should be World Heritage, but UNESCO said, please, for the 5th time now, give us something we can agree to. So the boundaries are very narrow, but there is a process in UNESCO called serial nomination, by which the boundaries can be expanded. So our hope is this becomes a functioning site where things kind of work the way we think they ought to, with control by the local people. And if that works, what do you think? I mean, she's the expert in politics.
Yeah. Right. So I'm just going to say that it's true. For me, I think personally, I would say this World Heritage, it could be like a pilot project for the whole subak in Bali. If it works, we can always nominate different sites. Even the whole Bali could be World Heritage sites in the future. That's what I can say. Yes. Can we still have questions? Yes.
I think that's all the time we have for questions. So, part of the PechaKucha Night is we ask presenters to stick around after, and in this general area over here, Stephen over here, in this area, we ask people to stick around, so if you do have questions, you can chat. Just so you know, the music is not coming from our speakers, it's coming from next door, in case you were wondering if we were trying to set a romantic tone. It's not, it's just bleeding in. Our next presenter, Tosca Santoso. Tosca Santoso has been a journalist for the past 24 years, and he was very active during the Suharto time against for press media struggles. He was the first Secretary General of the Independent Journalists Association, the Alliance of Independent Journalists, and he's still a member of that group today. Currently, he's the Managing Director of KBR, which is the largest independent news agency, radio news agency in Indonesia. And he's the Managing Director of Green Radio, which is a radio station in Jakarta that he founded and is pioneering environmental radio journalism. He's also been in the Shoko Fellow, winner of the Knight Journalism Award, among many other awards. He's a social entrepreneur, and he's a novelist. So he's a busy guy. He's kind of all over the place. And tonight, he's talking about save lives, tune into the radio. Tosca Santoso.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I would like to share my experience on managing radio, providing information for the people that need it. I started radio news agency in 1999, institution that provide information for the local station in Indonesia. And I choose that because the radio is the media that very repressed under the Suharto. So when we have freedom, then the opportunity come, but the capacity is not there. So this is our newsroom in Jakarta. Every day we provide information for 900 radio stations all over Indonesia and Asia now. It's not very small operation with NGO form, but now it's moved as a quite big media. And in a disaster area, radio can play a very important role in save people. This is an announcement in Aceh after tsunami. When people lost their family, they look their family by put the announcement in the wall, and they do that because radio is demolished by the tsunami. So we try to rebuild station in Banda Aceh. This one picture that we erect again the tower for the radio stations. We train the journalists in Aceh to give them back on air and provide information and healing the situation after tsunami. In that case, radio can play a very important role in meet the people, family gathering again. And because of tsunami, also not only the station that lost, but also people many lost their equipment. So we distribute small radio to the family in Aceh. This is, I think, in Melabo that we provide the radio for the family there. It's very simple operation. Radio can set up only in a few hours if we do the community radio, but it can play a very important role in the disaster area. And one of the mission of KBR is also to help open up information in the remote area. This one case that we have people in the Hutomo in the mountain of Jayawijaya and Papua, where in 2005 there was a crop failure and more than 55 people died in that area. Because the information is very late to be known from us. So if we know it sooner, I think we can save many lives in the area. So we help local community in Yaukimo to set up radio stations with the tribe community there, and it was on air in 2007. But because in that area we don't have electricity to start the radio, so we first build micro hydro to provide electricity for the radio stations. It's a very small river that we dam, and then we can power like 9,000 watt of electricity and then powering the radio. And this other example in Central Sumba, that we also have the local community to set up radio. And this is very important. In Central Sumba, the problem is people have facing the organized crime, stolen horses, and sometimes police is not capable to address that the organizing crime. And with radio, people announce the program of their self-defense for the thief, and then it helps people to protect the horses from thief. So it's not only save the people, but also save the horses. And 5 years ago, I started Green Radio in Jakarta, the radio for promoting environmental awareness and also encourage people to do something for betterment of environment in Jakarta. Because Jakarta every January, February is always flooded. So for example, the radio encourage people to create biopori hole to improve the capacity of absorbing water in Jakarta. And then we encourage our listeners to plant mangrove in the north coast of Jakarta to help the protect from abrasion. So radio is a very simple medium, but it can be used for promoting values, promoting ideas, and encourage people to do something. Like this slide, we organize people to plant a tree in the national park in upstream of Jakarta. Because usually people in Jakarta, if flood come, they always blame the people living upstream that this is flooded, the sand from the upstream. But from the radio, we encourage, if we want to avoid flood, we should plant tree in the upstream area. So more than 22,000 trees we plant on that area, and we create alternative economy for the farmer that previously living in the national park. Now the national park, we make reforestation on that area. So we introduce other genetic income genetic for the farmer that contribute in the area. And that place now is getting more tree, and we can use that also for the education for the children, knowing about biodiversity in the forest not far from Jakarta. So radio is old, maybe out of date medium, but it's still very useful. Sometimes can save life, not only people but also horses. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Yes.
How is the response been so far to the Green Radio? Do you measure your success? Do you measure the success of your outreach through your messages to the radio? How has the response been so far?
The question is, how has the response been so far?
And do you measure your success?
And do you measure your success by the output?
I think the response is very good. Our project start very small program in '99 with only 15 minutes program per day, and now listened by 10 million people a day. So we produce quite many program, various program, and got a response very positive from the public. We have program, for example, in health education and human rights protection. So that kind of program get very good response from the audience. Is that answering your question?
So Pak, I have a question. So you've worked in a lot of different formats. How does radio fit in? Is it your preferred format, or do you prefer the written word, or how does radio rate for you?
Actually, I'm not a radio person. I just went to the radio because when we have freedom in '98, the radio, as I said, is a very repressed media. Before I worked in print journalist, so I'm happier to write than talk in the radio.
All right, thank you, Pak. Okay, before I introduce our next speaker, I wanted to make a special thank you to Paco Dec and Tara, who are the owners of betelNut, and who are hosting us again tonight. It's a fantastic venue. And they always seem to find room for everyone, no matter how many people show up. So thank you to them both. Our next presenter is Marcus Westbury, and he's the founder of creative projects Renew Newcastle and Renew Australia. And his background is as a writer, a broadcaster, a media maker, and a festival director. In 2008, with his own funds and energy, Marcus founded Renew Newcastle, which is probably the project he's most famous for, and he's going to speak about it tonight. It was a low-budget, not-for-profit, do-it-yourself urban renewal scheme. He still lives in Australia. He's a former newspaper columnist, an arts guidebook author, and a love-hate tourist guide to the city of Newcastle. He's talking tonight about From Emptiness to Opportunity, Marcus Westbury.
Thank you. I just, before the slides start, I have to get in. I'm losing my voice. So hopefully you can hear me. Hear me? Okay, good. And by the end, I might just be going, I have to work with it. Let's go. So the story tonight is about Renew Newcastle, which really begins in my hometown. I grew up in a city in Newcastle, Australia, which is a industrial city where when I was a student there was 40% youth unemployment. The big industries, the steelworks, had closed down and moved on. I moved away to live in Melbourne and Sydney over the last few years. Then I came back to Newcastle and saw the state that the city was in. And I walked up and down the two main streets and saw all of these empty buildings. You can see some examples here. In 2008, I came back to Newcastle, and my idea was I might start a small bar or a small venue or something like this in an empty building. And what I realised was that no one was returning my phone calls. Although there was 150 empty buildings in the two main streets, it was very impractical for people like me or people who I knew who had imagination and energy and ideas, but didn't have access to money or capital to take on those spaces. So many of those spaces sat empty for such a long time. This one, for example, is the second oldest theatre in Australia, and it's been empty all my life. It's a 150-year-old building. I've never seen it full. This one is Newcastle's post office. It's a glorious, beautiful old building. It has been tagged and vandalised, and it's got wire fence around it. It's been boarded up and left empty for a decade because no one has been able to use that space. In 2008, I walked along the two main streets of Newcastle, just mapped out and counted the number of empty buildings, and there were about 150. All of those red dots on that map are an empty building in Newcastle in 2008. Those of you who don't know where Newcastle is, it's about a 2-hour drive north of Sydney. You can see in the bottom corner there, if you don't know your Australia geography very well. So I didn't have any money, I didn't have any resources, I wasn't government, I couldn't do very much. So I decided to try to come up with an urban renewal scheme I could put on my credit card. So Renew Newcastle is the cheapest, most laziest. I'm also really lazy. So I tried to come up with a scheme that I could basically do on my credit card that wasn't going to be very hard. And basically what it involved was taking those empty buildings and matching them to people in Newcastle who had ideas and imagination for things they wanted to do. And this is a photo from back in 2008 where we signed an agreement with one of the big property owners in town to borrow their empty buildings. These were some of the buildings that we borrowed, to lend them to artists and creative people, social enterprises, community initiatives. We couldn't guarantee them any security. We couldn't lend them the buildings permanently. We couldn't give them the buildings. But we could go to the owners and say, if we can borrow this while it's empty, will you lend it to someone who wants to try something? And we did. So this is an example of an artist getting into one of these spaces. The responsibility was that you had to clean the buildings up, fix them up, take good care of them while they were empty, and if the owner got a better offer, they got to have their building back. If you came up with an idea that worked, you could rent the building. But if you didn't, it didn't cost you anything to find out it didn't work. So this is an example. This building had been empty for 10 years. We lent it to a group of local makers, artisans, craftspeople. They were mostly young mums who made kids' clothes and bags and jewellery, and they converted into this. That fit out cost $60. They did it on 60 Australian dollars, it's about 60 US dollars. They did it on Hard Rubbish Day. So in Australia you have these days about once a month where You put out all of your big objects on the side of the road so someone could come by and collect them. Everything in that picture was picked up by the side of the road, or they made it themselves. What we found is if you give spaces to people who are imaginative and have ideas and imagination and enthusiasm, they do amazing things with them. The act of bringing people back brings business back, it brings commerce back, it brings life back, it brings activity back to places. If you let people who don't have money act on their imagination and their ideas, you end up with more interesting places. For such a long time, Newcastle had been in a dynamic where the only people who could afford to play were people who had access to capital. The people that we allowed to play were people who just had good ideas. So this, for example, are a group of young boys. The youngest was 17 and the oldest was 21 when they came to us, and they designed t-shirts, skateboard decks and streetwear. They designed stuff for other young boys. No one in their right mind would support them as a business scheme, but there was no danger in letting them a space to see if that idea worked, and it did. They now have a full commercial lease and sell their stuff all over Australia and around the world. These ladies are jewellers. Again, they've been working from home, making jewellery from home. They wanted to run classes and share their skills and their work with other people. They weren't going to sign a 5-year lease to try that, but we lent them a space and it turned out it worked. This guy, Shannon Hardigan, is a landscape photographer, amazingly talented. He didn't have any money, he wasn't in a position to take a commercial lease. He has bought this building, he now owns it. We lent him a space on a rolling 30-day basis for about a year, and he's now moved into it. He's now bought one up the street. In 2011, Newcastle, which had previously been seen as the worst ever city in all of Australia, was named by Lonely Planet as one of the top 10 cities to visit in the world. If you note at the bottom, Sydney, that story was from the Sydney Morning Herald, and all the people in Sydney were complaining why Sydney had never been on that top 10 list. This is the difference. Up the top there is Newcastle in 2008, down the bottom there is Newcastle in 2013. All of the green dots are buildings that we've once had and have fixed up, and all of the orange ones were ones that have passed on and that we're currently using. We've done 125 projects in 55 empty buildings. The vacancy rate in Newcastle has dropped between 50 to 90%. 2 of our projects have bought their buildings, and about 20 places around the world are using the same model that we developed in Newcastle to borrow buildings. That's where it ends. Thank you. Actually, that's where it begins, because it's moving everywhere.
Questions? Yeah. Dee. The question was, are you doing anything with the Newcastle post office?
Right now, that's too big and too expensive for us to do very much with. But we've done 55 other buildings while it's still sitting empty.
Did you pay off your credit card?
I'm gradually clawing it back. I dug myself in a very deep hole, and some months I come out way ahead, and other months I'm not so good.
Yeah, are you influenced at all with people in places like Detroit? Like, have you had conversations with people in other places, other cities like Detroit that need some of this?
The question is, have you talked to anyone, for example, in a city like Detroit, where they might need some?
A little bit. There's about 20-something Renew projects or Renew-related projects going around the world. I've talked to some people from Detroit, but that's not a place where there's an exact model running. Partially because property's so cheap there, you can kind of you can buy it cheaply, which is a bit different to what we've done. But there are Renew projects going in Copenhagen, Rotterdam, Toronto, Canada. About a dozen places around Australia, and places like even New York. There's a project called Miles, which is made in the Lower East Side, which is based on the model we developed in Newcastle. So the idea is spreading in lots of places, but haven't been to Detroit yet.
Could we do exactly the opposite in Ubud?
Could you do the opposite here? You want to get rid of some of the shops and empty out the space. One of the things that I'm really aware of is I think that that gentrification process is a cyclical one. Like it actually kind of, it's not a line that goes like that, it's actually like a cycle. And so, you know, things move in and price out anyone who has any originality, imagination, whatever. They all leave, and then suddenly there's this giant, like, why am I here? Because this strip is just full of crap chain stalls, and I don't want to be here, it's all rubbish. And then it bottoms out again and comes back up again, and I wonder whether some of that cycle is happening here, but I can't speak to that because I'm not from here.
I told you it was a great lineup tonight. All right, we have one more presenter and then we're going to have a break. So our next speaker is Rudolf Dethu. Rudolf is a music journalist, a writer, a radio DJ, a socio-political activist, a creative industry leader, and a former band manager. One of the things I like about tonight's presentations is everyone is many different things, and Rudolf is a great example of that. Rolling Stone Indonesia has called Rudolf the Grand Master of Music Propaganda, which is a name based on his success with two different bands that he managed, both from Bali. Superman is Dead and Navicula. And actually Robi from Navicula is performing right after this speaker, so it works out very well outside. So we'll make that announcement after he speaks again, but make sure you get a chance to see Robi outside. Rudolf is currently based in Sydney, and he's the author of the first ever History of Modern Music in Bali. He's currently in the midst of writing a script for a music documentary, and he will soon release his second book, a band biography. Tonight, Rudolf is speaking about Kuta, Kontra, Kultura. Rudolf Dethu.
Hello, good evening. It's more about music now. This is what Bali, you know, what's the music? Oh, sorry. Tonight I would like to talk about the other side of Bali, the Bali that not many people know about. Not this kind of Bali, but the Bali counterculture, which exists very strong. This is what Bali that most people know. And in pre-love helps to romanticize it. Thanks to Julia Roberts. And this is Bali that not many people know. Hello? This is the kind of Bali that not many people know. This is one of the biggest punk rock bands in Bali. It's been around for 10 years. And this guy introduced a song called Bangsat. Bangsat means, I'm sorry, fuck you. And it's not really useful for us to say that, but he gets his popularity from there. And it all started from this club. It's called Twice Bar. This is the new version of Twice Bar. This is in office Kuta, this is where all the underground people and the urban hangouts. This is the place where they all hang out. So even Emma Bock talk about Twice Bar. She got her doctor, PhD, from writing this book, Making Scenes. And then my book about the first history of modern music in Bali. And this is what happens almost every night in the Twice Bar. This is the new one. And part of the subculture that we have is this tattoo place, how we love tattoo and all of this that included in the with them the band. This is Superman's Dead when they got the tattoo, and this is also about fashion, the kind of fashion that actually really exists in Bali subculture. And that's my clothing label before. We had two shops in Germany and one in Australia. And also from that bar, Twice Bar, it became a place where they started a restaurant as well. This is on the second floor of Twice Bar. And from Twice Bar, we had one of the biggest rock bands in Indonesia, Superman is Dead. This is the band that I used to manage. They have 3.5 million Facebook fans now. So it's the biggest in Indonesia. And this is Navicula, the biggest grunge band in Indonesia. They are from Bali. They just got back from Hollywood to do a recording session. And this is the hydrant. And the first rockabilly band in Indonesia. And that's Suicidal Sinatra. That's the first psychobilly band in Indonesia. They are the biggest in the whole music scene in Indonesia. And because of we are very close to the underground people, the activism and everything. So student activists came to us and we started working to fight against the government. This is one of our rally, one of the band from the Twice Bar scene. She's from Ubud. She's one of the girl who always plays in Twice Bar. And also there's Navicula. It's part of our activism. So student activists always come to Twice Bar to start their activism because you can include the band and everything. And one of our activism, the soft approach, beach cleanup, monthly beach cleanup. And this one, we start to do not only like activism like against the government, the rally and everything, but we start also with education. We just started the Rebel Radio Indonesia. It's our new radio, online radio. So now we have two kind of Balinese people. The religious, the old one, the traditional one, and the modern one, the punk rock one. So this is the mixture from all of from the traditional and the modern. So but from it all, we really care about Indonesia. It's all about, it doesn't matter anymore whether the Balinese men, they are too westernized or not, but for us, it's not us to answer that. As long as we care about our country. Thank you.
Questions for Rudolf? Oh, okay. Alex Ryan. Why did you move to Australia, Pak?
Because my wife got cancer. So, but I'm still writing and directing a documentary movie from Australia, which is very hard. And also, I come here this week to also to finalize my documentary music movie. But I'll go back to Indonesia in January. I will move to Jakarta. Maybe work for KPK.
What do you see for Bali for the future in terms of music?
I think Bali is, that's what, I'm sorry, I didn't do it really well with my speech and everything because I think I'm more of a writer. But with Bali, you need to know that Bali is what, even though it's a very small island, but it's one of the strongest, we have one of the strongest music scene, modern music scene in Indonesia. And like, let's say, Superman is Dead, they have now almost 4 million Facebook fans. That's the biggest in the whole music industry in Indonesia. And we only have like 3 million people here. And Navicula, they'll be one of the biggest as well very soon. So the music scene, we have a very bright future, and we are considered as one of the strongest in Indonesia right now because like we have Superman is Dead, we have Navicula, we have the Hydrant, and we have Suicidal Sinatra. They are very well known because they're considered unique, even though we don't really have that traditional touch, but I can't say anything about it.
Last question, Pak. So at intermission now, Robi from Navicula is going to be performing. You've worked with him for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about Navicula and a little bit about Robi?
What is great about Navicula, and that's why I came to them and I offered myself to manage them, is because they were green before all the bands tried to be green in Indonesia. They concerned about the environment from the first day they became a band. And now to become green, it's like a trend, which is a good trend, of course. So, and also musically speaking, they are, how do you say, they are very, like, they're one of the best. They're very special. And also, they're so humble. They have their ballady side inside, and then it's not like a rock star at all. Even though when they went to America, the last time they went to America, they got like very, very good response from the American scene. And yeah, in 1 or 2 years, I bet they'll become one of the biggest band in Indonesia.
So normally, this is the time when right before intermission, we invite Ubud co-founder Steve Monroe up onto the stage, and he gives a short 3 to 5 minute Ubud propaganda presentation. Tonight we're not going to do that because this is part of the Ubud Readers and Writers Festival. Instead, we're going to say we're very, very pleased that everyone to see the great turnout tonight, and I think our speakers are a real representation of what Ubud is and what Ubud can be, which is an incredibly diverse, inspiring place. So thank you all for coming. We're going to take a break. Robi from Navicula is going to be playing solo outside, so I encourage you all to go and check him out. We're going to be about a 15-20 minute break, and we'll make an announcement outside when he's finished that we're restarting. There's 3 more speakers to go. Thanks a lot.
the problem. It's like this
Used to watch Daniel Zep movie, new movie Jalanan. And Navicula make one song for the soundtrack there. Metro. And oh yeah, and it will be premiere apa namanya screening ya on Antonio Blanco Museum. It will be on 14. Oh, cool. Alright, man. Traditional culture in Bali. This one is called Malada Petani, farmer's ballad. Katanya tanah negeri kita kaya raya, kaya hasil bumi hadiah ibu pertiwi. Katanya negeri kita negeri agraris, tapi ada wabah kelaparan, oh ironis. Anakku menangis, tentang juga ibu katalah moyang yang dulu pernah ditinggal besar. Yang hijau bermandi sinar matahari yang kini mulai hiasi mimpi dia mau anak negeri. Petani kita kini sudah jaki-jaki, tergantung bibit hibrida dan pupuk kimia. Harga produksi gila, panen lapang gak ada, kebijakan pangan ada di tangan mafia. Kebutuhan hidup tak bisa lagi ditunda, lahan desa terjual, orang kota membelinya. Uang ternyata tak bisa bertahan lama, peta sawah terakhir terjual juga. Tanah duka, tanah moyang yang dan seperti Ho, ladies and gentlemen.
Oke, nama saya adalah Ho, salah satu aktor dari film Jalanan, dan saya datang dari Bali tadi malam untuk festival film internasional, dan akhirnya film Jalanan juara 1 se-Asia. Sebelumnya saya tak rindu karena saingannya berat-berat. Oke, I wanna give a song from Oho song.
Wong pinter, numpak helikopter. Wong bodoh, numpak kebo. Wong pinter, sekolah dokter. Wong bodoh, main bloma-bloma. Yo, 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 aja mono. Wong pinter.
Hey, Steve. Hi, Mom.
Pinter, bodoh, helikopter, omong kampung. Wah, pinter, aja bodoh, wong bodoh, aja sok pinter. Goblok, goblok, goblok.
Aku iki wong bodoh. Lah wong numpak wae kebo, kudu numpak helikopter, numpake kebo. Wong bodoh iku numpake kebo.
Ganggu BBM, ganggu kanan pot, ganggu numpake kebo. Ganggu BBM, ganggu kanan pot, ganggu. Wow, Peter, numpak helikopter. Wong bodoh, numpak kebo. Wong Peter, tadi nek dokter. Wong bodoh, korban goblok, goblok.
So Daniel Ziv has made this film called Jalanan, and he just won first prize at the Busan International Film Festival yesterday. So if you haven't seen it, there's going to be a screening on Monday night at 6 p.m. at the Blanco Museum.
I'd like to invite all of you, Monday, as Peter said, Monday night, 6 p.m., get there early because a lot of people are planning to come. It's going to be the first major open-air screening that we're attempting to do in Ubud in our community here. So come early, get seats on the grass. It's a beautiful space in the Antonio Blanco Museum. And we're going to have free popcorn, free organic, raw, something, ice cream. It's actually very good. And a few other treats. T-shirts, stickers, other kinds of shameless merchandise. and it's going to be a huge screen and a great sound system. And Po's other two co-stars of the film, Wani and Titi, are being flown in from Jakarta for this occasion. It'll be their first visit outside of Java, and the first time to Bali, so we want to show them a warm welcome, and they're going to give us a nice little concert. The other two sing much better than Ho, so don't worry about that. And we'd like you to come celebrate our victory at Asia's biggest film festival right here in Ubud. And it's a really fun, uplifting, beautiful movie about the lives of three very special people. Thank you very much. Monday, 6 p.m.
So Robi from Navicula is going to give us one more song, and then we're going to go back in and start off. Robi.
So later after PechaKucha finish, we're gonna make a fun jam in here and lots of noise. Because noise like so actually it's good guy just doing the lip sync and then the sound is wrong. This one is called Peace Pretenders. These are really loud songs.
Peace was just for show by those who want control. Sacred consumes the world, forgot what love can hold. Peace feels
started again, so if you can grab your seats, grab a drink, we're gonna get going. Two. We have three final presenters. I hope everyone enjoyed Robi from Navicula. And Ho. What I like about PechaKucha Night is there's always some kind of spontaneous thing that happens. We had a beatboxer friend of Ruchina one time end the show. That was fantastic. We had Ho out there tonight. Who knows how the evening will end. Our next presenter is Suzy Hutomo from Body Shop Indonesia. She's the co-owner and CEO of the Body Shop in Indonesia. She's big into sustainable business, and she's passionate about planet, people, profit, and that's what she's going to talk to us about tonight. She lives in Bali. She's lived in Bali since 2012. She says she leads a healthy lifestyle. She's a yoga enthusiast. Tomorrow night she's doing a raw food dinner. She lives in Sonor. But we'll let that go for tonight. Those of you who are Ubudians know what I mean. She's involved with several environmental organizations, including Greenpeace here in Indonesia, and she's a presenter with Al Gore's Climate Reality Project. She's also a friend of Anita Roddick, the founder of The Body Shop. So here she is, Suzy, talking about people, planet, profit.
Hello, everybody. This is the first time I'm doing this, so we'll see how we go. Okay, right, tonight I'm talking about Planet People Profit. It's something I really care deeply about because I'm an entrepreneur. And, okay, is it on yet? Okay, all right, so it's because my husband and I didn't want just any other business. So the thing that I want to talk about tonight is that there can be no profit on a dead planet, and sometimes people in business forget that. They think about their profit, but they don't really think that if we didn't have the planet anymore, then we wouldn't have any profit. Anita Roddick, obviously my inspiration, she said that business is now more powerful than politics. It's more powerful than religion and government. I think we all know this, how much lobbying goes on by the really big businesses. And we can see this when we look at some of the numbers, like ConocoPhillips. That's their revenue is bigger than the GDP of Pakistan, and ExxonMobil, their revenue is bigger than the GDP of Thailand, for instance. So we need to realize how powerful these companies are. And you know, all companies create economic value, and how do you do that? Obviously through profit, by revenue, and then you take away the cost. But really, we need to think, how do we really figure the cost or the profit that a company contributes to the economy? That's the question. Because if you look at the costs that are accounted for in a company are the internal costs, but a lot of the external costs, such as these ones that I put up here, are not accounted for. And that's why sometimes you think, is there really any profit for the world, for the planet, and for all of us? For instance, if we take deforestation, here's a quick slide. You know, forests are worth trillions of dollars every year, every second. They provide 20% of the fresh water, provide 1/3 of the world's oxygen. It locks in 100 tons of CO2 every acre. But as you know, in Indonesia, we're encouraging investment in logging for pulp, and also for mostly in paper pulp, and also for palm oil. And we're losing our rainforest. And so, can we really say that these companies are building economic value for Indonesia? That's the question. And this is Dr. Vandana Shiva, and she made a very good statement. She said, it is not an investment if it's destroying the planet, full stop. So that's what our governments need to learn, that we need to understand the external costs that are involved in investments. And I think there's something that we need to know, that 50% of the 500 biggest listed companies of the world, they account for 73% of the total greenhouse gases. And they're primarily operating natural resources and energy. And unfortunately, these are the kinds of companies that make lots of money in Indonesia as well. And a recent survey of the CEOs, most people see that sustainability is a route to growth, but those who say sustainability is important has fallen actually from 54 to less than half, 45. And why is this? It's because of the economic problems that we're facing right now. So the CEOs have focused back. And if we don't watch out, in 100 years, this is what's going to happen. Some guy in a suit will be sitting around and saying, yes, the planets got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of value for shareholders. You know, so where's the profit in that? Not for the planet, certainly. So really, what should we be doing? A sustainable future depends on planet, people, and profit. But which really comes first? This is the big question. Most companies say, I'm happy to think about the planet and the people when I've got enough profit. So, what does it look like? Well, the thing is, let's look at how it should not be like. What it should not be like is exactly that, to make the profit and then think about the people and the planet and call it CSR, basically. And that's what most energy companies do. That's really bad behavior. And what we really want is to think, which of these circles should come first, really? How can we do this? It must change, and how can we change this, the way that companies think? Consumers must rally to demand that corporations be accountable and reduce their impact environmentally. We should all, as consumers, know that we have a lot of power. And we should all be investing in renewable energy to take away the power that energy companies have. And what else? To be informed, to understand all these things. And we need to support the NGOs who are fighting for the environment and exposing the companies when they don't do right. And this is a favorite saying of Anita as well. She turned me into activist because she said that activism is the rent we pay for being on this planet. And I'd like just to have an example. This is 30 activists from Greenpeace who are now jailed for piracy because they were campaigning in the Arctic. I'm sure most of you have heard about this. And there are now 1.2 million people already who have written to the Russian embassy, and I urge you to do the same. I think we all need to be concerned about that. So there you go. This is how we want them to behave. To think of the planet first, and then in so doing, you safeguard the well-being of the people, the society, and when the planet is right and the people are thriving, then the company makes the profit. That's really how companies should think. And this is the new definition, right, of sustainable development. It meets the needs of the present while safeguarding the future. And it must have some planetary must-have. These are the things we need in order to survive on this planet, and people forget that. And there are other sustainable goals as well that we need to think about, like livelihoods and so on. Anyway, I'd like to end just with this Cree proverb, which is something that I think about quite often, that this should not come to be. That only when the last tree has died, the last river has been poisoned, and the last fish has been caught, will we realize that we can't eat money. Thank you very much.
Can you hear?
Yeah, if you'd like to spend some time, I could give you a report. But basically, I'm not here to talk about the body shop specifically, but perhaps at another time. But definitely the products from the time they're made and the time they're disposed, the life cycle has been thought of. And we do as much as we can. I'm not saying we're the best at anything, but we definitely do as much as we can. Yeah.
What is the most dramatic project you've been involved with in terms of some of the environmental activism that you've done? The thing that's had the biggest impact in Indonesia?
Okay. I think on a personal basis, I support environmental groups, and that's how I volunteer my time and my effort, because I'm a business person and I can help a lot. I can help NGOs a lot to be more effective, to think better, to do better planning, and that's the role I play. Where the business is concerned, it's here to support groups. We don't actually do the actions ourselves. We do help groups to garner petitions. Recently, we ran quite a successful campaign with the Diet Kantong Plastic group, which is the, Stop Plastic Bags group, which we campaigned with them and we push that petition. So we don't really act on the forefront, but we support them. And we spend most of our marketing budget to help them get a voice. And 50% of the petition they collected was through our stores. And that's how we aim to help to support the NGOs.
Dr. Suzy, sorry, not doctor, just Suzy Suhota. There's Dr. Stephen Lansing, and soon to be Dr. Steve Monroe. He's working on his PhD in co-working. Yeah. All right, our next presenter is Garin Nugroho. He's originally from Jogja, from Java, and he comes from a literary family. But his work spans many genres, ranging from film, theater, art installation, to books and newspapers. He's considered the pioneer of the new generation of Indonesian avant-garde cinema, and he did not write that. Someone else, he wanted me to say it, someone else has said that about him. His films have been recognized at many international film festivals, including Cannes, Venice, and Berlin. He began his career as a film critic and a documentary filmmaker, and his works have taken taken him all across Indonesia. And tonight he's going to talk to us about Bermainlah, Berupacaralah, which is let's play, let's do ceremony. Pak Garin, Nugroho.
Selamat malam, maaf bahasa Inggris saya sangat jelek, jadi ada penerjemah yang pasti bahasa Inggrisnya sangat bagus.
Oh, he said good evening. His Indonesian is better than his English, so I'm here to help.
Ya, gambar-gambar di bawah ini memperlihatkan karya-karya saya ada di banyak daerah, dari Bali, Aceh, Papua, dan sebagainya. Dan dengan banyak seniman-seniman Indonesia, dari patung, tari, musik, desain, dan sebagainya.
So the work that he does involves artists from all over Indonesia and from different areas, but also artists of different genres, so sculptors, dancers, visual artists.
Saya mencoba menceritakan proses kreatif saya secara sederhana saja.
He wants to tell you in a simple manner about his creative process.
Pertama, mencipta seperti naik perahu di Asmat, Papua.
So he said, creating is like taking a boat from the Asmat people from Papua New Guinea, like getting on a boat.
Perahunya kecil, kita harus berdiri.
The boat is small and we must stand up.
Dan berdiri bersama-sama beberapa orang dan di tengah ombak.
We're standing up with a number of people and we're in the middle of a lot of waves.
Dan kita harus bernyanyi.
We have to sing.
Jadi mencipta seperti itu.
That's what creative process is about.
Yang kedua adalah mencipta seperti seremoni tradisi seperti di Bali Anda lihat.
Process creation is also like a ceremony, like you see in Bali.
Happening, seluruhnya happening art.
It's always happening. The
Dan
art.
mengajak partisipasi setiap orang.
He asks for the participation of all those involved.
Ada yang membuat instalasi bunga, ada yang masak, ada yang membuat organisasi, ada yang berdoa, ada yang bermain teater, semuanya terlibat.
So from making dinner to arranging flowers to doing drama and to singing, everyone's involved in participating in the process.
Dan kita mengerti ada yang menciptakan kita dengan upacara.
And then we understand that there is one who creates us through the process of our ceremony.
Dan seluruhnya adalah happening art dan jam session dalam upacara.
And this is all the art called happening art and a jam session in the context of the fact that we've been created.
Ada rule tapi juga tidak ada rule, ya kan? Ada partisipasi tapi juga ada instruksi.
There are rules and there are no rules. There's participation but there's also instruction.
Hal yang lain adalah mencipta seperti juga di dalam masyarakat Batak. Di Sumatera adalah tungkunan tiga. Jadi untuk memasak ada tungku segitiga. Jadi ada filosofi tungkunan tiga.
From Sumatra. From the Batak people in Sumatra, they have a philosophy from their tradition that is a
tungku masak, tempat memasak.
A place to cook.
Ya, itu segitiga.
It's a triangle.
Dan di dalamnya selalu ada apa yang disebut dengan budaya heritage.
Inside that triangle is the heritage of the culture.
Kemudian ada yang disebut budaya populer,
popular culture,
dan budaya alternatif.
And alternative culture.
Maka dalam film saya selalu tiga itu harus ada.
In all of his films, those three components exist.
Saya bekerja sama dengan Ceni, almarhum Ceni di sana. Saya bekerja sama dengan Aryani, saya dengan almarhum Sura. Saya bekerja sama dengan seniman yang selalu ada maestro, tapi juga ada yang muda.
So he's saying different people that he has worked with, different artists that he's worked with. And he's like the maestro of all those people who came from diverse traditions.
Dan saya bekerja dengan slang dari budaya populer juga, dengan cosplay dan sebagainya.
Pop culture, slang.
Ya, slang. Dan kemudian mencipta juga sebetulnya adalah apa yang disebut dengan tumpang sari dalam kebudayaan menanam padi di Jawa.
So in the process of planting rice in Java, there is something called tumpang sari.
Jadi kita harus menanam padi, tapi di situ kita bisa menanam kangkung, kita bisa menanam ada ikan di situ, ada tanaman pelindung, ada banyak tanaman yang bisa kita gunakan.
So in the planting of rice, they also plant cassava, they have fish, and they plant many other different diverse plants in the process of planting rice.
Jadi kita bisa panen 6 bulan, dapat uang, dapat yang panennya 3 minggu, ada yang panen seminggu, jadi ekonomi kita terpenuhi juga.
So the harvest happens different times. Sometimes every 6 months you can get rice, and then every 3 months you might get something different, and maybe every month something different because of the diverse plants.
Maka saya bikin film cerita, saya bikin iklan, saya menulis kolom 3 minggu sekali di Kompas, saya mengajar, saya mendongeng dan sebagainya.
So he does a lot of things. He writes in a column in the majalah atau
Koran Kompas.
In the newspaper. He's also a filmmaker. He's doing many different things in his own profession, just like that tumpang sari, the different plants in the rice process.
Dan mencipta juga sebetulnya adalah seperti juga sebuah tanah dan ekosistem.
The creative process is an ecosystem.
Maka kita seperti sebuah tanah. Kita tahu betul tanaman ini untuk tanah yang mana, tanaman ini untuk tanah yang mana, tanaman ini benih bibit ini untuk tanaman yang mana.
So if we see the creative process as an ecosystem, we understand that each plant is used in different types of circumstances and has different types of rules and different settings.
Jadi kalau saya bekerja dengan 9 perupa maestro Indonesia, maka mereka seperti tanaman.
So he sees the actors or the performers or the creative people that he works with, in a sense, he sees them as plants.
Dan setiap tanaman punya karakter yang berbeda-beda yang harus kita tahu untuk diletakkan di tanah mana, di skenario mana, di struktur mana.
So as a director, he has to know each type of plant needs to be in what environment and what structure it can actually grow in.
Dan untuk menjadi ekosistem tidak ada yang kecil, yang besar, semuanya penting.
In an ecosystem, everything is important. There's not one thing more important than another.
Dan dalam ekosistem setiap hal berarti, setiap benda punya arti.
Even objects in an ecosystem have an importance. Every aspect is important in the ecosystem creative process.
Dan selalu punya peran.
There's always a role.
Maka tidak usah takut bikin film kerjasama dengan menggunakan instalasi, menggunakan foto, menggunakan musik, menggunakan apa saja, karena dia ekosistem dari kehidupan kita.
So you don't have to be afraid if you're making a film to use installations, to use music, to use anything that comes from any environment, because that's part of our ecosystem.
Dan kalau untuk memecahkan seluruh masalah, bikinlah planet dalam dirimu.
So if you want to solve a problem, create the planet inside of you.
Salah satu planet yang paling murah adalah tertawa.
The cheapest planet is laughter.
Karena ada film Indonesia yang terkenal sekali, ada cerita seorang miskin.
There's a famous film in Indonesia about a poor person.
Selalu tertawa terus.
Who's always laughing.
Dan seorang politikus tanya, kenapa kamu tertawa?
So a politician was asking, why are you always laughing?
Karena saya tidak punya apa-apa.
Because I don't have anything.
Yang saya punya adalah tertawa.
All I have is laughter.
Dan tertawa adalah planet terbesar di bumi ini yang paling indah.
And laughter is the largest planet in this world that is the most beautiful.
Selamat mencipta. Terima kasih.
Alright, any questions? Oh, we have one over here. Melinda.
Yeah, I wonder if you had any sort of like experience that helped you understand the importance of the diverse ecosystem in your own creative process. Is something you just always understood?
The question is, was there a particular experience that you had, or was this an understanding that you always had? Is that right?
Seluruh hidup itu menangkap gejala sebetulnya, menangkap gejala dalam kehidupan.
All of life notices things that happen in one's life. In all of everyone's life, we notice what happens.
Meski kita pandai, ilmu pengetahuan seperti gravitasi bumi itu terjadi karena dia lihat buah yang jatuh. Maka terjadilah ilmu gravitasi bumi karena dia lihat buah jatuh. Tanpa buah jatuh tidak ada, meskipun kita pandai apapun juga.
So even if you're the most intelligent person in the world, you see what's in front of you, what's around you. So the example of gravity, seeing a fruit fall from a tree, the person came to the knowledge of gravity because they saw a fruit fall from the tree.
Maka seluruh apa yang saya katakan itu karena saya melihat kehidupan. Dan dalam kehidupan adalah kehidupan adalah kaki dari buku kita paling panjang.
So yeah, everything he's learned in his experience, because our life is our feet
dari buku
of our book.
Ya, yang paling panjang.
The longest book of our lives. Our experience is the feet of our book, of the longest book of our lives.
Alright, we have one more presenter. Before our last presenter, we're going to try an experiment. Normally we have one photographer taking pictures for the whole night. But tonight, if you have any pictures that you've taken, if you could email them to me at peter@ubud.org, we will put together a crowdsourced photo album on Facebook. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, you can check on the Ubud website and on the Ubud Facebook page, and there'll be pictures. So peter@ubud, Ubud with an H in front of it, .org, and send your pictures in, and we'll see if we can put together a great crowdsourced album. All right, our last presenter for the evening is Chok Sawitri. She was born into a royal family here in Bali, and is a famous Indonesian poet and short story writer. She's also an accomplished actor and a well-known director. And tonight, I'm not even going to try that. And tonight she's going to close off our presentations. Do we have her? Is she around? John is looking for her. Here she comes. Chok Sawitri. Sorry, before she begins, Susan Allen is going to do translation again for this. So thank you, Susan.
Saya cuma ada 17 slide, jadi ada 3 slide sebenarnya untuk bebas saya bicara.
She's gonna show you some slides so that she can be free.
Judul saya itu sederhana aja, mari kita membunuh ide, harapan dan impian. Dari tadi dengar sumpah, everything, kita bunuh aja semua itu. Termasuk bunuh semua ide-idenya Garin Nugroho.
Her idea is about killing ideas, killing hope, killing dreams, including killing Garin Nugroho's ideas and dreams.
Karena apa? Setiap kali kita punya ide, harapan dan sebagainya, semuanya hancur karena masalah uang, masalah selingkuh dan sebagainya. Karena itu buat apa?
Every time there's an idea, there's always a problem. We need money.
Di tahun 1999, saya melakukan dekonstruksi sebuah cerita Widow of Chira. Sekarang sedang diterjemahkan di Amerika dengan cara indie karena saya sudah bosan dengan semua penerbit di Indonesia maupun di seluruh dunia. Jadi saya pilih Amerika karena dia sedang shutdown. So, you're translating. Hey, you must stop. She not translate me.
Okay, I'm gonna try. So in 1999.
Dan Ivan, Garin sedang tertarik dengan Pramudia Anantur. Saya sudah membuat dekonstruksi, dia tidak berani membuat film untuk saya. Karena saya sutradara lebih bagus daripada Garin. So what? Lihatlah, saya mendekonstruksi semua pemikiran dari yang menstigma perempuan. Bukankah sekarang tribut for Kartini? Dan saya sudah mendekonstruksi bahwa Zirah itu sangat holy woman. Dan Kartini itu kolonialisme. Jadi kita harus menyahut kata PechaKucha, cha. Ya, kam. PechaKucha, cha. PechaKucha. You must stop because this is just joke, kan? Tidak termasuk waktu slide, kan? You must translate.
Okay, what she said was PechaKucha, cha. Everybody, PechaKucha, cha.
Okay, now seriously. Saya selalu mempunyai sebuah konsep yang sangat serius. Saya lahir dari sebuah tradisi berteater, basicnya religius, basisnya gender religius. Saya melatih.
Okay, wait. So she's going to be serious now, and she wants to say that she comes from an area and a family, and all of her ideas are based in a serious sentiment. She comes from a royal family in a certain area.
Jangan menyebut royal family, saya nggak merasa itu.
She's
Itu
not
personal.
from a royal family. No.
I don't like it.
She doesn't like it.
Serius,
Dia tidak suka.
Iya, karena itu membuat saya harus selalu mentraktir orang.
She doesn't like to be from the royal family because she always has to pay for everyone's meal.
Dan di tahun 1999 saya merubah tradisi panggung di Bali yang selalu harmoni. Dan saya menolak, saya tidak dipengaruhi oleh Rendra, tidak dipengaruhi oleh para pemain teater lain, tetapi saya membuat konser ngatang namanya. Dan saya tahu dia akan bisa mentranslate kata ngatang ini. Itu saya membuat sebuah garis linier. Itu yang pertama. Lalu kemudian, karena saya jengkel, semua orang tidak menyukai saya lamar Tuhan saja. Kenapa? Dan itu terbukti. Saya sudah lama memikirkan fundamentalis di Indonesia itu akan sangat-sangat mencekam kita, termasuk FPI dan sebagainya. Karena itu saya melamar Tuhan supaya kalian tidak bertengkar soal surga. Coba terjemahkan.
So,
PechaKucha bikin aturan. 20 detik, kamu harus cepat.
Sebentar dulu. So, before
PechaKucha. You know, I'm Balinese dan selalu dianggap outsider, pasti jelek, tidak bisa membuat tertawa. Saya pernah hampir ke Broadway dan saya menolak karena uangnya tidak cocok. Kamu pikir Broadway itu kaya? No, Garin aja berutang, nggak punya kantor ya. Lalu ketika semua orang tergila-gila, perempuan harus jadi presiden, Hillary Clinton dan sebagainya, Megawati, saya bukan anjing perempuanku. Dan saya pakai hisab. Kenapa? Saya pernah jalan-jalan ke Maroko dengan biaya keluarga saya. Mereka seksi-seksi sekali karena pakaiannya itu bagus sekali. Kalau sekarang ada bintang film atau penyanyi namanya Syahrini pakai apa kafan. Saya dulu sudah pakai kafan, tapi saya sebut anjing perempuan. Itu karya saya, dan tentu saja tidak akan ada yang mengundang Jakarta dan sebagainya. Sebab saya tidak begitu ramah dengan Salihara dan yang lain-lainnya. Karena ada Mas Gun sekarang di sini. Dan kemudian ketika semua orang ingin affirmation untuk perempuan dan sebagainya, saya bilang aku bukan perempuan lagi. I'm not more woman. So what? Kurang apa saya menyindir Kartini? Saya kasihan sama translatornya. PechaKucha. Kita harus menciptakan karakter PechaKucha di Bali itu kayak begini. Yang akan kelihatan di YouTube pasti saya, bukan Garin. Tapi seriously, I'm working about basic Siwa Buddha. Our ancestor religions. Ini bahasa Inggris saya lebih bagus pada Garin. Kalau penerjemah saya sudah lari, saya terpaksa pakai bahasa Inggris. Wisuda Gumi from Siwa Buddha religion. Now we don't have understanding about that, but saya adalah penganut agama Siwa Buddha. Apakah Anda tidak mengerti atau tidak mau mengerti? Saya tidak peduli sebenarnya. Karena ini negara saya, Anda harus belajar bahasa Indonesia kalau datang ke sini. Sebab ketika saya ke luar negeri, saya harus belajar bahasa Inggris. Nanti ketika Bali merdeka, saya mewajibkan Anda datang untuk belajar bahasa Bali juga. Tetapi ini adalah bagian yang akan membuat Garin dan sebagainya orang Jakarta itu, bahwa saya pernah bekerja dengan orang yang menangkan Oscar di Broadway. Saya tidak mengizinkan media membuat sebuah liputan dan sebagainya karena saya tidak mau jadi korban infotainment. Sebab saya kehidupan antara di panggung dengan keseharian itu, saya orang Bali, itu tidak ada bedanya. Ya, begitulah. Coba ulang, PechaKucha. Keren kan, PechaKucha. Nah, inilah saya selalu sangat hormat pada orang-orang yang menginspirasi saya. Gus Meti Sweet, saya membuatkan legong rangda. Di Bali semua orang bikin legong itu yang cantik-cantik. Saya rangda, saya bikinkan legong. Iya, also trademark in Bali legong. Tapi saya buat rangda. The marks yang paling jelek itu, saya bikinkan rangda. Bikinkan legong. hasilnya. Nah kemudian ketika ini body shop misalnya kan sangat cinta lingkungan, semua larang no smoking area. Saya pencinta tembakau, perokok keras, maka saya mengadaptasi karya tobacco itu dari Anton Chekhov menjadi bahaya bukan dari racun tembakau. Setelah itu inilah rahim, womb, perempuan sangat penting memiliki rahim. Jadi kalau dunia tanpa rahim apalah artinya. Nah karena itu saya membuat rahim, dan cerpen ini memenangkan di Kompas atau enggak saya lupa karena hadiahnya terlalu sedikit untuk saya. Tidak cukup membayari bir dan wine hidup saya. Setelah itu inilah saya ingin membunuh semua ide-ide itu. Saya ingin membuat sebuah black box jet kemanusiaan yang jatuh crash. Dan kalau saya bisa bayangkan di sini semua ada slide, lampu-lampu, para pemain saya gelontorkan dari atas. Anda itu saya gelilingkan ke bawah. Dan tiba-tiba di sini ada pemain teater semuanya, lampu, bayangan, sehingga Anda bingung membedakan antara saya pemain ataukah dia penonton dan sebagainya. Semua sudut lampu menyala dan semuanya percakapan, suara musik di sebelah yang tetangga kita, semuanya itu adalah bagian dari kita. Sehingga cara menonton yang sangat monolog ini, konservatif acara ini, itu kita rubah, gitu loh. Menonton film itu konservatif untuk idenya Rudolf Dethu itu konservatif, just terus kemudian apa? Untuk bicara tentang lingkungan semua konservatif. Jadi saya semua bunuh idenya. Saya masukkan dalam black box kemanusiaan kita crash. And then we find, we digging, we try to understand humanity, harmony. Dan selalu berpikir harmony is quiet, listening, everything, frank. Buat saya bukan itu. Humanity itu adalah crowded seperti kita saat ini. Kita bicara serius soal ide dan sebagainya, musik menggema di mana-mana. Semua bicara tentang harapan, semuanya lagi, saya ingin minum, kamar mandinya lagi dipakai dan sebagainya. Itulah hidup, itulah kebahagiaan, itulah harmoni. Ingat, saya punya 17 slide. 3 saya masih bisa pidato untuk Anda. PechaKucha! Bahagia kan? Jadi kita tidak usah harus mengikuti aturan mereka, karena saya membunuh ide PechaKucha itu yang harus 20 slide dan harus ada semacam pertemuan tanggal sekian, Anda harus dilatih bicara dan sebagainya, seolah-olah kami bodoh. Dan ternyata saya bahasa Indonesia dan Anda bisa tertawa dan yang lain-lainnya agak kebingungan. So, Anda mau bertanya karena dia juga tidak mengerti yang saya seperti ini. Anda mau bertanya? Oh ya, saya memutuskan hadir saat ini karena Jayanti, volunteer saya. Jika saya tidak datang, dia bisa dipecat dari volunteer di UWRF. Jadi saya datang. Padahal mobil saya sudah sampai di sana. Saya pikir, oke, saya datang menyelamatkan acaranya dia. Oke, Anda boleh bertanya atau saya dipecat dari tempat ini. Belum habis kok. Saya ada 3 slide yang belum dibacakan. Sastra bagi orang Bali itu memang sakral. Tapi sastra bagi orang Indonesia saat ini adalah publisher, penerbit, dan kemudian Facebook, Twitter untuk publikasi. Tapi sastra bagi saya ada my way of life is sastra, literature. Because orang Bali itu hidup dari tutur, karena itu saya melakukannya. Saya tidak peduli orang-orang lain tidak mengerti bahasa saya. Kita ada di rumah kita sendiri. Mereka boleh pergi. I don't care. PechaKucha. Ada yang mau bertanya lagi? You know, I'm cooked at this state because I'm a host from Balinese, yeah, the last. Oke, siapa lagi yang bertanya? Tidak ada yang berani bertanya kan? Dan sudah malam dan saya harus pergi kan? Tidak mau kan? Karena saya keren, coba potret saya. PechaKucha. Jika dia mengerti, penerjemah saya pergi. Betapa bahagianya saya. Mas Garin, saya melakukan cita-cita saya. PechaKucha. PechaKucha. Sudah kan?
One of the first words when I first came to Indonesia, one of the first words I learned, because I have 3 children, was "pengacau." Maybe you are familiar with this word, maybe you are not. But tonight, I think we have seen pengacau in action. So sedikit tidak sopan, saya pikir sedikit tidak sopan, tapi pasti pengacau. Pasti sekali. So makasih Bu. Thank you for coming out tonight. We hope to see you at our next PechaKucha, which will be in a month from now. And there's lots more going on at the festival. Daniel's film is on Monday night at 6. Make sure you make it there. Get there early because it's going to be crowded because Daniel's telling everyone about it for about 2 months now. So it's going to be crazy. Tonight, if you still have energy, there is a street fair going on just off the main road, so you should go check that out. And tomorrow night at Ubud, there's a storytelling night from 5 to 7, which is basically like an open mic, intimate storytelling evening. Thanks a lot for coming. We'll see you next time.